Minis-N-Muscles, we're heroes, right? The dying world's still modern skies. Rushing ahead, we're power we fight. Strength that breaks you, night in the night. Where the brawn meets the blood. The starry stone in this love imagination mode. With every stroke, adventures unfold. Minis-N-Muscles, heart and soul. To explore, roll the future, hear the dice roar, gaining realms of muscles drawn, together in this place where we belong. Golden spells, casting dreams until the dawn, leveling up and the world to follow. With painted heroes shining bright, venturing onward in the endless night. Where the brawn meets the blood, the starry stone in this realm of imagination mode. With every stroke, the vengeance unfold. Minis-N-Muscles, heart and soul. Where the brawn meets the blood, the starry stone in this realm of imagination mode. With every stroke, the vengeance might fall. Minis-N-Muscles, heart and soul. Minis-N-Muscles, we're heroes, right? The dying world's still modern skies. Rushing ahead, we're power we fight. Strength that breaks you, night in the night. Where the brawn meets the blood, the starry stone in this love imagination mode. With every stroke, adventures unfold. Minis-N-Muscles, heart and soul. To explore, roll the future, hear the dice roar, gaining realms of muscles drawn, together in this place where we belong. Golden spells, casting dreams until the dawn, leveling up and the world to follow. With painted heroes shining bright, venturing onward in the endless night. Where the brawn meets the blood, the starry stone in this realm of imagination mode. With every stroke, the vengeance unfold. Minis-N-Muscles, heart and soul. Where the brawn meets the blood, the starry stone in this realm of imagination mode. With every stroke, the vengeance might fall. Minis-N-Muscles, heart and soul.
Huzzah! We're here! Crikey, that was a bit of a dodgy start. For some reason my forward-facing camera had stopped and it wasn't working, so I couldn't connect and it just had some frozen picture of me. So sorry about that. Had to play my intro twice. God, what was going on? Well, we're here. It's a Friday. I'm going to blame the bad weather because we've got hideous weather right now. So I will blame that. How are we? Are we doing well? Happy Friday. For those of you who are first timers, welcome. I am very happy to have you here. And for those of you that are long timers that have been here since the start, welcome. It is Minis-N-Muscles, a place where the brawn meets the brush. We every week paint miniatures from various different realms. So every week we paint various different miniatures, and we talk geek. So everything and anything in between. Pokemon to Gundam to comics to Warhammer to D&D, anything and absolutely anything. Geek, retro gaming, the lot. We talk about it here, and we just have a good old chat and a natter whilst we paint miniatures. So hopefully you guys can bring some miniatures along and paint whilst I clean my glasses. You guys can bring some miniatures along and paint. Whilst I paint, you can learn a few tips and tricks along the way. It's not professional painting by any means of the imagination, but it's a good standard painting and something that everybody can do, and that's the most important thing. So I'm trying to encourage people to pick up the paintbrush and paint miniatures, as well as sort of embrace the geek culture regardless of your background and where you're from. So let's move this camera cable out the way, our charge cable. Let's throw it out the way as we do every week. Well, what a crazy week since I've last spoke to you guys and we were last online. Last week we were painting our ogre miniature, so let's bring him into frame. There he is there with his little sort of furry rug around his arm and stuff and bits, and he's got a poor little cow there hanging off the edge, look. And we started to paint this up. We will continue to paint this throughout today's session. Today, what else have we got on the agenda? Well, for our overall chat and general chat topic for today, we're going to be talking about Dungeons and Dragons, and generally speaking, we'll sort of filter the Dungeons and Dragons chat into the Forgotten Realms versus Homebrew. So, and don't worry if you're not a Dungeons and Dragons fan, you don't quite understand what that is, don't panic, because we will discuss everything during that chat. So we've got that coming up. For our muscle moment, we wouldn't be Minis-N-Muscles if we didn't talk for a moment about fitness. And this week we are going to talk about gym clothing, functionality versus fancy looking. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. So it'll take about 10 minutes, roughly about the halfway mark, to talk about clothing. And then last up on the books, we've got our hobby horror moment. And the hobby horror moment is called the new model curse. And we'll talk about the hobby horror moment when we get to it and what the new model curse might be all about. So that's our show today. Hopefully you will stick around with us and you will stay with us throughout the journey and stay till the end and keep me sane at least whilst I'm on a Friday night here with you guys painting along and painting a little bit of miniatures. So how was your week? I hope you've had a good one. Thinking of week, let's have a bit of a recap on my week and what's been happening since the last show. Well, lots has been happening. So, played a couple of games of Warhammer. I played a game of Warhammer with my Space Marines. It's quite a close game. And I did a really silly move with my Space Marines. I moved off an objective and lost the points, and those points were basically what kept me, or could have won me, or at least kept me in the game. So I was really stupid and I moved off a thingy thinking that I had the objective sticked so I didn't have to stay on it. So yeah, I lost with my Space Marines, but it was a good game, really good game. And then I played with my Sisters of Battle. It was a bit of a last minute thing. I didn't even plan my army, to be fair. I just literally picked them up, went down to a buddy's house, and I lost. So 2 losses on the bounce, not good. That's off the back of, like, I think 4 or maybe 5 wins off the bounce. So a load of wins, then 2 losses on the bounce, not so good. I think in the second game where I played my sisters, two errors really. One, I didn't protect my tanks enough. And without tanks, sisters can't punch against high toughness enemies. So I kind of struggled a little bit there because I was facing off against Imperial Knights, which are all very high toughness. So my sisters struggled there a little bit. So it ended up, because we had to wrap it by 9 o'clock anyway. I think we was in the 3rd round, and the end of the 3rd round was it was about a 10-point difference. So I was behind by 10 points. It doesn't mean to say I would have lost, but I was losing at that point, and I don't think I had, and the reason why I was happy to concede is because I don't think I had enough high-level tanks to be able to penetrate the Imperial Knights and get them off of the objectives, because the guy had, I want to say, 3 large Imperial Knights. I killed all his little ones, all his little ones that he had, but I couldn't get the big knights down enough, and I didn't have anything left. All my tanks were gone, so I was kind of buggered. But that's not to say that it could have gone. It could have gone a bit better. Let's put it that way. But it's no problem because we managed to play some good games, right? And this Sunday I've got another game coming up, so some more geekiness. This one is 3-player game, so we're doing 2 of us versus 1 player. So me and my buddy will team up yet. We haven't even discussed what we're going to take. So that's going to be interesting. And then we'll fight against our other friends. So 1,000 points each versus his 2,000 points. Then what else have I done this week? Oh, Dungeons & Dragons was this week. What a great sesh of Dungeons & Dragons this week it was. Really good to play and see all the guys again, because we had sort of a little kind of break where people's commitments we couldn't get together. So we had our Dungeons & Dragons session, which was really good. Super enjoyed that. That was very, very cool. So quite a lot of fun in that. It was a bit chaotic at the start because we sort of went back into the end of some combat that we were doing in the last game. And then once we got through that, we came out the other side and it turned into more of like a shopping episode. So we sort of went around the shops and, you know, bought all the things that we needed to buy for our next adventures. So that was very cool. Apart from that, no Pokemon this week. I haven't been able to get hold of many Pokemon cards, actually, to be honest. They're really hard to get hold of at the moment. So that's a frustration. Aside from that, what else? I'm just trying to think. Is any other geeky? Played a little bit of Warcraft this week, not much. Maybe an hour at best. But I've got, where am I up to now? I think I'm up to about level 18, I think. So I've got my my Night Elf Druid up to level 18, so that's pretty cool. One thing I did notice though on World of Warcraft is you can't play with people like you on Fortnite, for example. You can play with people around the world. You just have to change your server. You can't change your server in World of Warcraft. Once you're in, that's it. So I couldn't play with some buddies that I have, so that was frustrating. But apart from that, I think that is me. Pretty much. I'm waiting for some orders from a paint shop for sending some paints over and some bits. Some new cork for bases, because I quite like doing that at the moment. So, yeah, bit of a frustration waiting for that. But that's it. That's my geeky week. How about you? I seem with my problem of not being able to log in today, or my camera not working. I'm just going to quickly check to see if we are actually live, because sometimes it's difficult to tell. So I'm just going to try and log in and see if I can see. It does say that we're live. Yeah, it does say that we're live. Okay, all right. Well, that's good. That's something, right? At least we are live and it is working. I'm just going to double check just in case. Oh, for God's sake. Now it's wanting me to scan stuff. Such a pain in the backside. But we are on, so that's good. Apart from that, what else? Just trying to think if there's anything else that I've done this week that's geeky. No, I don't think so. So let's crack on with the show. 2 hours of painting. Hopefully you've got your wet palette sorted. I've got mine. Just going to bring my paint mixer a bit closer. Nice fresh wet palette today. Lovely bit of fresh water right here. And we've got our model. So we've got our big beastie here that we're going to continue to paint. Now, so best change your camera then, better we? Zoop. Here we are. Oh no. See, that camera's frozen as well. This is really strange. Bear with. Let's just fix that. There we go. Okay, that's cool. So let's just move that back slightly. Boop. There we go. Alrighty, so this is our ogre. This is what he looks like so far. There's his anvil with his rocks tied to it and a stick. He's got a big keg there next to him. So there's quite a lot to do, really. A lot of it is actually skin, so maybe we'll start doing the skin tone. I'm going to see if we can find like a weird sort of off-greeny kind of colour, because that's the kind of colour I think he should be. I'm just looking at what colours I've got here. That might work. What about that colour? Is that too? Let's mix it up and see what it comes out at. Let's see what it comes out as. Here we go. Mixing that up. So what I was going for is like a kind of paley, odd skin colour, but with like a kind of green tinge to it. But I think this is a bit too luminous, to be fair. Oh yeah, that's way, yeah, we don't want that as a skin tone, do we? No. That's not right. What about that? What's that colour? Let's mix that one up and see. Well, that one actually. Okay. Sometimes you forget what colours you've got, so I'm just mixing up some greens right now just to see, or some off greens, just to see if we can find a nice shade to do this ogre's skin tone in. What I don't want to do is have to mix up, because it's quite a large area, I don't want to have to mix up a colour and then if I run out I then have nothing to paint. So we've got this like Nurgling green. This might be perfect. We've got this colour as well. I just want to check this one. This is a more browny colour. The browny or the more greeny? I don't know. Although it looks green in the photo on the screen, I'm going to go with this one, this lighter tone. Let's try this one. I'm going to give it a bit more of a mix up because I don't think I've used this paint before. Have you got your paints ready? Let's get my paints ready. There we are. All right. There we go. So let's get a little bit of this into our wet palette, as always, dumping it on in there. And I say a little bit, we need quite a bit here because we've got quite a large area to do. There we go, hopefully that is enough. There we are. Right, let's see what this skin tone looks like. I might be able to zoom out a little bit more actually, just so you get a bit more of the model. Let's see what he looks like with a green skin tone, shall we? Let's start with his boob. That's not bad actually, that's not bad. Let's see how that goes. Just want to give it a little bit of a odd coloration, that's what I was going for. And this sort of greeny tinge is quite nice. Because I don't feel that ogres would be like a stereotypical white or brown or black skin colour. They'd be like a gross skin colour, right? Because they're ogres and they're hideous. So that's what I'm going with. Might need to do 2 layers of this. In fact, I think we definitely need to do 2 layers. But that's okay. That's fine. So our general chat conversation this week is Dungeons and Dragons and the Forgotten Realms versus Homebrew. And what I mean by the Forgotten Realms versus Homebrew is the Forgotten Realms are what the D&D creators have created already. So that is where the D&D world exists already. So there's, you know, plenty of books on it and, you know, stories, including a movie. You know, so that is the Forgotten Realms. Homebrew is kind of, in essence, what it says on the tin, is where you guys and girls at home create your own world to play in. So I thought that'd be quite a cool sort of topic to talk about this week. Because, well, it's kind of inspired because I played D&D this week, and I'm also thinking of running a quick one-shot for some friends. So I thought, well, why not have a little think about this topic whilst we're there? And it's quite interesting. So let's sort of go through a few different things and just sort of discuss what it's all about, as in the Forgotten Realms versus Homebrew. So the Forgotten Realms, let's talk about the published setting itself. So that is the Forgotten Realms. That is where everyone, or the designers of Dungeons & Dragons, create their stories and their narratives. And that's where it all started. So some people might have heard of a place called the Sword Coast as one of the starting areas really for Dungeons & Dragons. And over the years it's sort of expanded to various different places and planes within the Forgotten Realms where you can have your adventures. They're all pre-written books that you can get from various different peeps. Oh, hi there, Silver Scratch. How you doing? Sorry, I didn't notice the chat. I had a box up blocking the chat, so I couldn't see you. Hope you're doing all right. We're just talking about D&D this week, so if you play D&D, Silver Scratch, then you can join in that conversation and tell me all about your D&D experiences. And the topic this week we're talking about is the sort of Forgotten Realms versus Homebrew. So Homebrew being the homemade games and the homemade realms that you make up and you make your own stories versus the written stuff. So the written stuff, the published settings, there's plenty of them. So Dungeons & Dragons themselves have loads and loads of books. I've got a ton that are sat down there, actually some that I probably need to sell. But there's loads and loads of pre-written settings, and that spans across the Forgotten Realms. So some might be Eberron, for example. You might have the Sword Coast. You might have Ravenloft or something like that. And there's loads and loads and loads of books with narratives already written for you, which is really handy because sometimes when you're playing D&D, there's a lot to learn, and what you don't want to do always is create something and have to make everything up, because it's quite demanding, especially if you're a first-time DM. So if you've never been a dungeon master before, actually creating a world is quite a daunting task, and it's a lot to do. Being a dungeon master requires a lot anyway, but running your own world is even more so. So these sort of standard settings are really good because you can throw yourself in there. You just have to read through this book and it will tell you everything you need to know. You know, from giving you maps to giving you characters, you know, all the names of the characters and the backgrounds of them, you name it. It's in these books. Super, super helpful. So all of the history that you might need to know, your players might want to know, you've got it there at your fingertips. I mean, you can buy the official books from Dungeons & Dragons themselves, so you can get them direct from those, and they're about, I don't know, ranging between about 20 quid a book all the way up to about 40 quid for the newer ones. And if you want to buy a limited edition, you know, then you're paying even more money. So you can pay a lot of money for these books. I'm not suggesting you buy the limited edition. There's no extras really, generally, apart from a fancy cover. So I've never really found the appeal of that. But, you know, they are out there for the collectors. And you can also go to a place called I think it's called the GM's Guild. So the GM's Guild offers you a load of variety of options as well. So if you think of sort of a hybrid between the books that Dungeons & Dragons release officially and then what people have written for those environments and those settings. So it's a bit like a hybrid, but they are available on the GM's Guild and they're dead cheap. So you can buy like a one-shot, for example, for £1. You know, not a lot of money at all. And it gets you all the information you need for running that one-shot. So they're very, very handy. And they're kind of a crossover between what we're talking about, as in completely homebrewed, to the standardised stories provided by Dungeons & Dragons. Trouble is, with this paint's quite thin, we're going to have to go over this a couple of times, look, because the black undercoat does come through quite heavy here. So this is where black undercoat's not always helpful when you are painting your models. I tend to go with black undercoat because it does allow you to do a lot of things, but when your paints are thin, it does mean you're going to have to apply a lot more layers to be able to cover up that sort of opaqueness, because you don't really want that black shining through on your model. But I think that kind of green looks quite cool. I'm quite liking that. So I'm liking it. I think it's pretty good. What else? So we're talking about published settings. You know, where you can get all your information direct from Dungeons and Dragons themselves, or perhaps the GM's Guild, and you can get all the lore, all the characters, everything you need to know, all done for you. So that is a published setting. Homebrew. What is a homebrew? I hear you cry. For those of you that don't or might not play Dungeons and Dragons, or it might be your first time in playing Dungeons and Dragons, homebrew is the exciting realm where you create everything. Now, Dungeons and Dragons is like that anyway, right? Where you're creating your own destiny and you're doing whatever you want in this fictitious world. Now, homebrew is like an extension of that, so that it allows the dungeon master to be able to create whatever he wants in this world. So, you know, it could make it so there's no sun anymore and everyone's fighting for, minerals and food. Or he could make it so that there's only one race left on the planet or something. Or, you know, you can make it really interesting and script it to your own liking. So this is really, really cool. It gives, as I said, the GMs, the dungeon masters, loads of scope to be able to write about what they want and include what they want. It also gives them flexibility, because you get a book and a narrative, a pre-written book by Dungeons and Dragons that you might not particularly like, or you just might like the freedom of, you know, absolutely making stuff up on the spot. So your party are always guessing, or maybe you're just a veteran, an absolute veteran of the game, and you've played pretty much every single book there is known to man. So you just want something completely different that you've never experienced before. So it all depends on what you want. But they're the two things that you get. It's your sort of pre-written stuff that's all done for you, all the lore's done, all the people are done, maps, the lot, or you get your homebrew, which is designed by you. You know, you're making up a world, you're making up the unique story, you're saying what goes where, you're saying how it all works, even down to, you know, things like currency. So that is the difference between homebrew and pre-written. Hopefully that's helped establish the first part of the conversation. There we go. So we're doing all right so far with this green. I mean, it's quite a nice green. It's not too overpowering, which I wanted. I wanted a kind of subtle flesh tone for this big boy. And I think this green really pays nicely into that. So he's looking good so far. Again, I'm not too worried about going over the edges here where his little hat is. Where I don't want to go onto is where I don't want to hit onto his furry shawl or whatever you want to call it, because that's already painted. I don't want to get green onto that, but I'm happy to get green onto the areas that are unpainted. Yeah, I just don't want to get green all over that nice white and black area we've got. There we go. We will apply another colour, another layer over the top of this, because as you can see all of the brush marks and stuff on this, so we're going to have to go over again, and yeah, just to start covering it. You can see that already looks better, makes it look a lot thicker rather than the paint being opaque and seeing all the undercolour through it. Just by going across like this, nice and quick, and it's not a difficult job. We're just going to cover up that undercoat. Yeah, so those are the two worlds. We're talking about our generalised conversational topic, which is all about Dungeons and Dragons tonight. So the Forgotten Realms versus Homebrew. So that's what we're talking about. So if you play Dungeons and Dragons and you have any experience, drop it in the chat. I would love to hear what you play and what your preference is. Do you know much about the Forgotten Realms, or maybe you know all about Homebrew because that's all you guys play, or maybe you've played every single Forgotten Realms book? Drop in the chat and tell me. Would love to hear from you. Whilst I paint this big fat ogre, this guy's actually from is actually a D&D mini as well, made by WizKids. I'm pretty sure. He's one of the, not a usual WizKids mini though. This one's actually quite a good print quality. Usually WizKids are really bad, but this one's half decent. Lovely. I think we need some more colour here into our wet palette. Running a bit dry on the paint. Here we go. Lovely. So I just mixed up that paint into my wet palette, and I can start reapplying. So what other things are we going to talk about then tonight? So I've kind of explained what the difference is between Homebrew and the Forgotten Realms, so we know what they are. Well, I think maybe next up on my topic is the sort of pros of published realms versus the pros, I guess, of Homebrew. I think that's probably quite an apt next place to start. Again, when I'm going along this model here, I've got kind of two straps, but I'm not too worried about going over the edge. If you've got an area that's unpainted, especially if you're using a light colour like this, you don't really have to worry too much about getting colour onto the area, purely because you're going to paint over it. And this is a really light colour, so it will easily paint over. What I am a little bit worried about though is coverage. So the black underneath is dead dark, and this is quite an opaque paint, this green. So this might end up being a great looking colour, but a colour that has going to require a lot of coverage. So we may find ourselves having to go over over this guy a few times just to be able to get the right coverage and skin tone. But that's fine. It's just all part of the model process, and it's not hard when you're doing a large surface area like this. It's pretty easy just to hammer across and get your paint applied. You don't have to, I mean, yes, you've got to be fairly careful, but you know, you can be also quite quick. You don't have to panic about things too much. You can apply the paint fairly fast, get it on the model, and get on to the next patch. There we go. Stick some paint up on his arm as well. So then, pros of looking at utilising pre-written books, so the Forgotten Realms, and heading into the Forgotten Realms of Dungeons and Dragons, and the pros around that. Well, what are the pros really? Well, for me, personally, I feel that the pros of using the Forgotten Realms books and pre-generated material, my favourite is that everything is done for you, so you don't have to really think about anything when you're running an adventure, a D&D adventure for the party from a book, because it's all written there. Yes, you do. When I say you don't have to think about anything, of course you have to think, because you're going to have to recall what you have read. You're going to have to read this book. You can't get away with not reading the book. You are going to have to read the book, even if that means you read, you know, sections at a time ahead of your game. You are going to have to read the book. Do you have to memorise it? No, because it's there for reference. So don't panic. You don't have to have a super high IQ and a memory like RoboCop. You can just you can pretty much blag your way through, because the book is always there to help you out. So if anyone's ever got any questions about, I don't know, who was the farmer that we met at the market, and you've always got that book to lean on. So really, I think that the best pro is that you've got some form of backup and support in the shape of a written book. Also, the fact that the adventures work. So if the difference between running a homebrew session versus a book session is the book adventures work. They've been tried, they've been tested, they've been played by tons and tons of people. And the adventures work, so you don't have to worry that your party are not going to get your clue or this or that, or they're not going to work out who the big bad is, because it's been played by loads of test players already, and it's been kind of player approved, so to speak. So you don't have to panic too much about understanding. It's well versed already, and you'll find that people will get what you're trying to say, purely because it's all written down as well. Even down to the responses from a character are written there for you, so you don't have to. You can ad lib it, of course you can, and a good DM I think probably will ad lib to a point, but you don't have to. It's there, it's done, which I think is really reassuring. So that's probably my biggest plus for a pre-written adventure. yeah, it's easy for new players. So if you're doing a pre-written adventure, as I said, because it's been played by so many people, in theory, it should be easy even for a new player to come along and play. It shouldn't be too difficult. What some people can get in a muddle with homebrewing is you can make things too lengthy, or you can make it could even be a simple thing like combat. Because you're homebrewing it and you haven't got anything to judge against, and you may not have a huge amount of experience, homebrewing a game, you can find that even combat gets too lengthy, or you misjudge the character, the enemy ratings or something like that. I've done that plenty of times, even as an experienced DM, to be fair. I've played where I've sort of misjudged how good the party are, or I've misjudged, the giving them X item, because they'll not just use it, but they will use it until they've really taken advantage of the situation, or so it can be quite difficult. And that's where your book again comes in clutch, because it's already done, tried and tested, and you can play it with anyone you want and it should work. Whereas you're playing in a environment that you're creating yourself, in terms of homebrew, it might not work. And when things might not work, you always have to have a backup. So in case it goes wrong and you can't do what you were trying to do, or the players don't get it, or whatever it is, you always have to have backups. If you don't, your session can sort of unravel really, really quickly. I remember one time I was DMing for a group, and I'd written loads and loads in this one town, right? So loads and loads of quests and things like that, and characters they can meet in this one town, and they decided to just leave the town, sod off, leave the town and go elsewhere. And I was like, and I'd like made a whole map for the town, with like all the places they visited, and I could have sort of added more places on as they'd visited them, because they were all sort of plotted out already. And they just said, no, we're going to this town now where one of the characters was from. And I was like, oh, okay. And that made me have to think a little bit. So yeah, I adapted some of the things that I had for the town for the next place, but it does throw you off. Whereas the book is quite linear, so it does mean that they have to follow a little bit more in line with how it's supposed to be played, which gives the pro for homebrewing, the pro for homebrewing is the sort of opposite of that, where you can just do things off the cuff and off the wall. And it doesn't really matter. So that's one thing that's really good for homebrewing. Things can just happen, and you can allow them and you can run with it, and it doesn't make a blind bit of difference. Whereas if you do that in a book scenario, so a pre-written adventure, you're a little bit stuck. Why do all my cameras keep bloody stopping? This is infuriating. I don't know why that keeps on stopping. Sorry guys. Terrible connection quality tonight. I don't know if it's because of the storm we've got outside. But anyway, I've been chatting away and hadn't even realised that my camera had frozen. My apologies. Cool, we're smashing through this green, I tell you that much. Well, I hope this the reason why we've not got many viewers tonight is because it keeps on cutting in and out. That's not the reason why. Be a bit of a bummer if it is. Let's check some of my settings because it's weird that we've not had anybody join us. Lay him like that just for a moment just so you can see him in all his glory. No. Weird. I don't know why. I'm not sure. Maybe everybody's out this evening. But that's okay because I have faith that everyone will watch back on demand once the video is published. There we go. Again, we're going to have to go over this a few times to get the coverage right, but he's not looking too bad really. He's looking all right. We're going to need some more bloody green, I know that much. Get some more green in the palette. There we go, still working on all the cameras? Yeah. That's good. Hopefully we won't have any other problems with cameras today and connections and all the rest of that jazz. Check my phone just to make sure we're still streaming. So what else is good about, or what else should we talk about rather when we're talking about the Forgotten Realms, or when we're thinking more on homebrew? So we've sort of talked about a few cons and pros. Did we even cover the cons? I can't remember. But I think we have, between the sort of talking about what they are through to the cons and pros. I think we sort of covered the majority of the bits. So what else do we want to talk about? Well, so players kind of shape your game. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, you have the option here as a dungeon master to either create a homebrew game or use a book. However, this I think also depends largely on your players. Now, what I mean by this is if you've got a group of players that love the roleplay aspect of Dungeons and Dragons, which a lot of people do, right? They're not just about killing monsters. They actually just love, you know, silly interactions in the game that they might have with an NPC, or, you know, they're there to understand what the other characters and learn about the other characters' backgrounds, for example. So if you have players that are heavily into roleplay, not that a narrative, a book narrative would restrict you necessarily, but having a homebrew game would allow you to be a lot more flexible. So if you know your players love the roleplay aspect and they really get into that kind of thing, if you're running a homebrew game, it will give you the opportunity to jump on things. Now, as a DM, you've got to be quite open to this, where, you know, if an opportunity arises or something pops up, you've got, you know, you're quick enough thinking to be able to change a plan or to add something in, or, you know, to make something more interesting because of how the players have reacted to something. An example of this could be that after a long battle and one of the players is injured, you know, another player's shown like that their character is really caring over the player that's injured, for example, and off the back of that, you might then, as a DM, want to utilize that to your advantage. For example, now these two characters in the game have got this bond. You might want to test that. So, you know, if they, I don't know, let's say they show signs of affection to each other, you might then want to test that by introducing an NPC that, I don't know, flirts with the female character to get the male character to react, or, you know, there's all different scenarios that you can do in a homebrew game that is not so easy done in a written story, because the written story has its sort of scope left and right. Yes, I think people will probably argue, oh, of course you can just do that anyway. Well, you can, but it takes more skill, I think, from the dungeon master to be able to intertwine something custom into a pre-written story. Whereas if your story is already pre-written and you're kind of, you know, not making it up as you go, but essentially, it might mean that you have the ability and the skill set to be able to just introduce things and throw them into the mix whenever the opportunity arises. And that makes a really sort of fun game. And I've found, especially around players that are highly engaged in role-playing, I think that really works well. Now, look at something like Critical Role or Dimension 20 or something like that. You know, these people are masters of the role-play aspect, so it gives the DM the ability to throw things at them last minute, or to introduce new things as players become creative, you know, and it sort of adds more layers to the game, making it more interesting and making players more engaged, because it's personal, as in it's not necessarily personal to the character, but it's the game has been personalised for them. And that can be, you know, really interesting. For example, if the narrative of the story is all written about one character or two characters, and how the party have got to save those two characters from instant death or whatever it is, it can really pull people together and make people more excited and enthused about the scenario, the situation, whatever it is. A written book people can do, but might not feel as connected to that. So, you know, they might, I don't know, dip out of the game or whatever it is. So I think having a what's it called, a custom storyline where you're doing your own homebrew game does help intertwine the players a little bit. So I do like it for that. There's been plenty of times where I've played with my friends at the table, and you know, it's been a bloody banging game. And just from, it could be something really stupid, some sheer stupidity, or just a conversation or whatever it is between two characters, and it's just made the game. It really does. Just go quiet as I get the paintbrush into this little tiny corner here. There we go. There we go. There you can see how he's coming along. He's looking better. The skin's already looking more skin-like. I'll tell you what, we're going through this really bad. Going through the paint, that is. A lot of paint. Righty, let's see if we can get his chonky legs done. So far tonight we've spoken about, you know, what it is, as in homebrew and the Forgotten Realms, and then we've sort of gone through good points and bad points, and you know, how players can make your game. I do think with the players, and just to expand on what we were talking about a second ago, is that, you know, good role players can help enhance a homebrew game. And on the flip side of that, the pre-written stuff is generally really good for new players, because often it will be quite simplistic, and it should be, where it's been tested amongst everyone else, as in all other players around the world, something that new players can just jump into and just start playing, right? So it's generally quite easy for new players to jump in on, whereas some homebrew stuff might seem a little daunting to new players. Actually really liking this green on as a skin tone for this guy. There we go. Oh, JPC, greetings. How are you, sir? I hope you're well. Hope you're doing good, mate. What are you painting at the moment? We've just been talking about, as you've just joined us, we've been talking about Dungeons and Dragons, the Forgotten Realms versus Homebrew. That's what we've been talking about this evening. Just chatting away about that. Have you played Dungeons and Dragons, JPC? I know you do a lot of painting, but I'm just not sure if you do a lot of role-playing games. If you do you enjoy Dungeons and Dragons? I shall wait for your answer. Oh, just off from work. Whoop whoop. That's good to hear, because that means it's the weekend. It means you can chill out, JPC, and relax and geek it up and paint some models. That is what I'm going to be doing this weekend. Because the past few weekends I've had really busy weekends, like doing a lot of stuff running around doing things for other people and things, which I'm okay to do, happy to do. But sometimes you just want to do stuff that pleases you, right? So this weekend I'd really like to do some painting. Because, yes, I've painted the model on the live, but I've not painted much of my own stuff, so... And I've got a lot, so those of you that know and watch the channel and have seen my pile of shame video, you know, I've got a lot. So I really, really need to get a move on with this painting malarkey and get some of this stuff done. So that is what I need to do, big time. So hopefully this weekend is that weekend that I can do that. I've built a Demon Prince, but I've not primed him yet. Oh, JPC! No way! I did see the picture of the start of you building the Demon Prince, to be fair, but you should have primed him by now. Come on, bro. What's going on? Do not tell me that, you know, work has got in the way of you priming a Demon Prince. Come on. What's more important, Demon Prince or work? Don't answer that question. As you see, all I'm doing here is applying a lot of this green to the skin of the ogre so that we don't have black showing through on his skin, or underneath his skin, should we say. So you say, I've played a lot of Vampire the Masquerade. I have all the D&D manuals, but never played. Mate, come on! You have to play D&D. Right, and even when I was in America, right, on a work thing, I just went down to a local geek shop and joined in their D&D game. And I think it paid like $5 or something to join in a game, and it was just a one shot, and it was ran by a local DM. It was quite fun. Although I think they thought I was the eccentric, crazy Englishman, because they weren't doing voices for their characters, and I was doing a voice for my character. So I think they thought I was sort of rather mad. Yeah, you definitely got to try D&D, especially if you've got all the books. That just seems barking mad, sir. Come on, right. JPC, I put it to you that you should try playing a game this weekend. Even if it's an online game. Because you can play online D&D, for those of you who've not tried that before. There are online games out there that you can join. It's not quite the same as playing around a table, so it does feel a bit different, but it works and it can get you playing, and that's the main thing. So yeah, especially if you've got all the books, that seems like sacrilege. Although I've got loads of books and I haven't played them all. I've played a few of them, but I've not played them all. So, you know, we could say that that's sacrilege as well, to be fair. Yes, he's all built. Congrats. I did paint bloodletter tongues fluorescent pink. Nice. My mate's just done some Tyranids that are bright pink, and they look freaking awesome. They look so cool. I'm very jealous of his paint scheme. So they look very good in bright pink. Still have my Shadowrun books. Oh, mate. Gee whiz. That's some old school stuff. So come on, I put it to you, JPC. Find a D&D group this weekend. I bet you can find one. Bet you can find a group. Bet you can get a game in. So come on. It's all on you now. I just need to get a bit of blue tack to hold this rock away from the hand, because I don't want the green of the hand getting on the rock. Blue tack. There we go. So if I put in a bit of blue tack in here, like that, there we go, it will stop the rock touching the hand. There we are. Boop boop. There we go. Not bad, not bad. Alrighty. He's looking okay. What do we reckon on the green? Is the green good? I think the green looks quite nice. I just imagine ogres being like this grotty, dirty, stinky green, like kind of vibe. That's the vibe I get from an ogre. Bet not. Overtime tomorrow. Nephew birthday party time. Oh man. Dag damn it. Sorry, JPC. Look, I tried getting you into a game. What about an online game tomorrow night when you're home from your birthday party? I'm trying all the buttons now. Just hoping that you might be able to do one. However, hopefully your nephew has a lovely birthday. Notice as well how I'm painting and doing this skin, right? This is, 3, maybe 4 coats. And because it's thin, it doesn't look out of place or awful. If you get like really thick paint onto your model, within, even sometimes after the first coat, it looks so thick, you lose all the definition in the model, in the areas you're painting, and you can just see it clumped onto the model. Whereas this is really thin, so it's quite nice and it sits on the model a lot better. So it allows you a little bit more forgiveness when it comes to applying more paint. If your paint is really thick, you're not going to get that. You'll literally get 1, maybe 2 coats that you can do, and that'll be it. Whereas here we're doing like, I think this is the 4th. So, it just does go to show, if you treat your paints with a little bit of water and use a wet palette efficiently, you can get away with quite a few coats on these models, and it doesn't ruin them. Or it doesn't ruin how they look, should I say. Go. I will go to the game store further out from me this weekend to look at other chaos kits. Oh no! What are you looking for now, JPC? What are you going to go for? Is that strictly 40k chaos kits? Or are you going to breach into Age of Sigmar? If you are, Age of Sigmar have not long released, re-released, should I say, Chaos Dwarves. Years ago, in the 80s and the 90s, there used to be a faction in Oldhammer, or just the standard Warhammer Fantasy, that was called Chaos Dwarves. And they're really cool looking, and the new ones they've just released really do look very similar to what the originals look like. I was quite impressed with that because my mate collected Chaos Dwarves. I had normal dwarves. He had Chaos Dwarves. And they really look similar. And I was like, oh wow, that's a blast from the past. So they're quite cool if you're just going on a general Chaos vibe, unless you're looking for like big imposing type models. But let me know what you're going for, JPC. It'd be good to hear. Just fill that. All right, how are we looking? Mostly good. Mostly covered. I think we're going to have to revisit this and just at some point and come back. But it's pretty good. Coverage is pretty good now. That's like 3-4 coats on most areas. So I think he's looking pretty good. Skin tone is good. I like the green. The green is good. So I think we might stop there. Let's place him down for a moment. Just rinse off this brush. Who we got on here? Birthday party Sunday, not Saturday. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, no worries, man. No worries. I'm sure you'll have a wicked day. How is in the building? Hello, How are you doing? You are back indeed. Welcome back to the show. How are you liking the ogre? Are you liking the skin tone on the ogre? Butterfly Horse is in the house. Hello, Butterfly Horse. How are you? I hope you're doing well. Fingers crossed you're keeping all right. You guys have just joined us at the moment where we switch back over here like this and we talk about the muscle moment. So we wouldn't be Minis and Muscles if we didn't talk about fitness for 5 minutes, because we are the place where the brawn... Oh, I've got really sore... I've got really sore chest and arms. So when I do that, lifting up there, that hurts. I can't even tense. Where the brawn meets the brush. Oh, man. I am sore. Did a good chest workout, but upper chest as well. That sort of really tags into your arms. Sore. So anyway, for our muscle moment, what was we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to talk about gym clothing, and the topic of that is functionality versus fancy free. And what do I mean by that? Well, ultimately, we are going to the gym for fitness, not fashion. Okay, so that's a really big bugbear of mine. Go to the gym for fitness, not fashion. You're not going there to make friends. You're going there to get fitter. So lots of F's there. Now, when you're looking at gym gear, try to stay away from these sort of mankini type approaches, tiny little outfit type things, only because they firstly can bring you attention or unwanted attention, especially if you're a female. And secondly, that's not really why you're there to show the body. I mean, it's great and everyone can appreciate that you've got a good body and you've worked hard to get it, but it's not all about flaunting that. You would be more valuable in your gym by helping others achieve the same body as you have whilst you keep yourself covered than you would just by showing them how good yours is. So with your clothing, let's look at 5 key points. And those 5 key points, firstly, are mobility and comfort sort of go in the same category here. So proper gym wear should allow you full range of movement, so for whatever you're doing, and it should not restrict you. So, some people do train in some sort of big heavy items, and I have seen people even train in jeans, and I don't know how somebody can go to the gym and work out properly in a pair of jeans. Especially if you're doing legs, you're never going to get your leg session done. But things like Lycra is pretty good. Perhaps a full Lycra outfit if you're a lady, Lycra leggings, or for men, Lycra undershorts, things like that are pretty good. I try personally not to go for too tight clothing on my upper body, and that's just a personal preference. You can if you want, but I find I get quite hot in the gym, so I want something sort of free flowing, and I can do this too, and cool myself off. So free range of movement on your clothing, so whatever it is you've got, make sure it fits proper. So you want also with that breathability and sort of sweat kind of management, and by that again you can sort of relate that to two things: close fitting or loose fitting, which means either you can do a bit of that and get your air circulating to your skin to cool you down, because that's the way you cool off. Once your sweat is there, you need a bit of airflow across it. And also then the type of material for breathability. Natural materials are really good, so your bamboos, your cottons, that sort of thing, really good for gym clothing. Not so good is your fake kind of clothing, your fake material, man-made stuff. Not so good. Third point, footwear functionality. So, bit of a bone of contention, especially with what I've tried recently. So, first of all, you want to have the footwear that's correct for the type of fitness you're doing. So if you're running, you want a pair of running trainers. If you're lifting weights, you want some flat trainers. So like a proper lifting shoe. So the stability of your trainer is more important than the style of your trainer. Remember that. So even if you don't particularly like the look of it, but if they're functional and the stability of the trainer works for what you're trying to do, that's the key. Second part of footwear, and I was kind of umming and ahhing about putting this in, is price point. That's purely because I went to Lidl the other day and I bought a pair of trainers for £14. That's £14. That's not a lot at all. So that's like what, $10 or something, $10. So didn't pay a lot for them. And I bought them because I needed a new pair of trainers. I was looking for some, and I saw these and I was like, surely they can't be any good. And I just wanted to try them just to see. They're not good for me because I've got flat feet. So they, on a long run I did the other day, they pinched my arch of my foot. So they're not good for that. But for short runs and just for the wearing in the gym whilst I'm doing a workout, they're great. However, that's pretty good. What else? Durability of your clothing. Yeah, it goes without saying. Don't buy cheap. Don't go to these sort of Chinese clothes manufacturers and buy cheap crap. Buy decent stuff that's gonna last you. Yeah, so that's it really. They're my kind of 5 points on your clothing for your fitness. Remember, you do there to fitness, not to look fancy. And that is it. Let's go back to our top-down camera. So Hal is saying, I work on Inferno in like 4 or 5 weeks. I work on Inferno. What? An Inferno model? So what we're talking about tonight? Well, tonight, Hal, we're talking about Dungeons and Dragons. And we're talking about the differences between homebrew games and... homebrew games and the Forgotten Realms. The Forgotten Realms being the pre-made books that you can buy off the shelf. Homebrew being you're making up the adventure yourself. So that's our general chat for this evening. Ooh. Okay. So, one difference whilst we're painting our model, that is. What am I going to paint next, actually? That's a good point. So he's got this... Oh, I've missed a bit of green in there, actually. I best fill that in first. Let's just get that in there. And then we'll paint this sort of the ropes and the straps that are across his body, right? Let's just fill this first. So, those of you that are watching, have you played Dungeons and Dragons before? I know JPC answered up earlier and said he's got the books, but he's never played. How about everyone else that's watching? Have you got the books and never played, or have you just never played at all? Have you never considered playing Dungeons and Dragons? Drop it in the chat. I would love to know. Whilst I paint his feet. I forgot about his feet, didn't I? There we go. Getting some green on there. Remember with this green as well, it's quite thin, so we're going to have to go over his feet a few times. If we get any green on the rocks, I'm not too bothered because they're all going to get painted, but probably do it in a muddy colour of some sort just to show how dirty and rough the ogre is. There we go. Around the back of his heel. There we are. Yeah, so have you guys played Dungeons and Dragons before? Ah, so Hal is saying a one-timer, one shot. Okay. So that's not bad. That's pretty good. Did you enjoy it, Hal? And was it one from a book, or was it one that a friend or you made up? So I'd love to know that as well. I have work on the rulebook. It's going to be an ebook. Oh yeah, your rulebook for your game. Nice. Well, I look forward to when this game comes out, so we can play it, dude. Be good fun. I'm just gutted there's going to be no models with the set that I can paint. See? That would have been good fun. Painting your models live on the stream. Oh, by the way, I was going to ask everybody, with the painting of the models and that, obviously a lot of the models are D&D models and Warhammer models, right? But is there anything that people want me to paint? Is there any specific things that they want to see on the channel being painted? I would like to know that. So for regular viewers, for new viewers, is there anything specific that you'd want to see painted on the channel? That's completely okay if not. If I'm doing a good job and getting all the models painted that you find interesting, and the ones that I've done are, you know, varied enough and are keeping interest. But is there anything sort of that you feel that you'd want to see painted on the show? If there is, drop it in the chat. I want to know. Let's do some pink horror. I'm going to do the cow udders first. Yes, it's going to be free. Oh, okay. And I got someone to maybe make miniatures. Whoa. Okay. That'll be awesome, Hal. That'll be really good. I'd love to see the miniatures. That's very cool. And you're saying orcs. You want me to paint orcs? Okay. I don't know if I've got any orcs left to paint. I painted some orcs in an orc army, which I'm actually going to sell. Because I think having too many models is just, for me, is just too complicated. Because I forget, when I'm playing Warhammer 40,000, I forget the rules so easy. So I'm trying to narrow it down just to my Space Marines and my Sisters of Battle. So I'm actually trying to sell my orcs at the moment. Some I spent a long time painting. Some I just used the speed paints and got them painted just so I could play them. So some's alright quality, some are just quick, fast painted. I stuck them on Vinted, which is like a second-hand selling website. It's a bit like eBay. For people in the UK, that is. I don't know actually if Vinted's in America. Maybe it is. I thought it might just be a UK thing, but those that are watching in the USA, do you have Vinted? Weird question. But yeah, if I can find some orcs, I will paint some orcs, not a problem. Quite happy to do that. Yeah, no worries, man. If you've got to pop off for a second, it's absolutely fine. Look, we don't keep you pinned to the screen here at Minis-N-Muscles. I mean, I'd love to pin you to the screen so everyone's online every single time, but, you know, people have got a life, man. They got to get out and do what they want to do. There we are. Go, that's that. And I want like a manky yellow for his teeth. So let's find a manky yellow. What we got here? That would probably be do right, wouldn't it? Morghast bone. That's quite a manky sort of yellow. That would be quite cool. Yeah, so our general topic of today is Dungeons and Dragons and homebrew versus the Forgotten Realms. And part of what I wanted to talk about tonight was, you know, the differences between it and how it all works. You know, and one thing that I find is quite different between the two, the immersion factor. Now, I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier when I was saying about, I'm just going to put my geek glasses on here so I can see. Yes, Hal, you go speak to the man that makes your miniatures, dude. Don't you worry. We will still be here. So, yeah, so, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, immersion factor. So, when you're playing, and you want your players to get involved as much as possible, right? And one way to do that is to ensure that they feel invested in the game. And part of the way you can do that is by giving them not a deeper role in the game, but giving them something to latch onto. Now, when you're playing either a standard game of D&D that's a written book, or you're doing a homebrew game, they do vary a little bit. And I was saying earlier that, you know, in a homebrew game, it's really easy to be to quickly change tact and make something about a character, or pull a character in so they feel like they're part of the story more so. And it's a little bit, it's not impossible, but it's a little bit more difficult to do when it's a written book. So, and the reason why immersion and bringing people into the story is important is because people find it relatable, and they find the ability to dive into something easier if they feel a connection to it. So, you know, that is a big sort of plus for homebrew games. Now, that doesn't mean to say you can't have a different type of have a book scenario, a pre-written book where you can get immersive, because that's kind of what D&D is anyway. It's immersion into a new realm or a new world. But I think homebrew just lends itself a little bit more to being able to do that, and I really like that about homebrew. That's my point. That's my wittering. As you can see, I've just gone over the lip a little bit too much, but once that's dry, I'll go back and do that in green, so it's not a problem. There we go. Take the geek glasses off. Don't need them for this. Right, what else are we going to do? We were going to do... What about his hat? Colour should his hat be. We've also got these straps to do as well. Probably this brown. So what about my own experiences of playing homebrew games versus book written games? One thing I would say, which is a stark contrast between the two, is that people that have played in the homebrew games have committed to them and have seen them through. When I've played games that are book written, people have quickly jumped off. Now, this could be a complete coincidence, right? But I'm not so sure it is a complete coincidence. I think it's got a lot to do with, you know, in a homebrew game, the story being about the players' characters rather than the players' characters joining a story. So I give you my example. So I've played a couple of different various book games, let's say, over the past year or so, where we played a few games and it kind of fizzled out. Now, you could say, oh, well, that's down to the players, that's down to the DM, whatever. And yes, partly. But I've played with the same people in a homebrew game, and let's use my last long homebrew game, and that was, you know, that was over a year worth of play. That was like 15 months of playing, and everybody turned up, everyone was up for it, you know, everyone wanted to play. Even a guy that was a first time really D&D player, even he wanted to play, and everyone stuck it out to the end. So I don't know whether that's just my recent experiences that have not been so good, or that is something that everyone experiences, but I think it's got a lot to do with what we've talked about. So immersion into the game and people, you know, feeling like really part of it. So I do think that has a lot to do with people's commitment levels then, right? Aside from commitment levels and people playing the game, I then think it's a lot down to the DM. The DM's really important in any game. If the DM is excited about it, if the DM is enthusiastic about it, if the DM, you know, makes as much effort as they can, it then trickles into the players, and the players do the same, and the players then end up having more fun. If the DM's not so excited about it, if the DM's not so bothered, it can then rub off on the rest of the group, which is not so good, right? Because you want your group to be enthused and you want them to be involved. But the actual story itself, as in the storyline of a homebrew versus a book-written campaign, there's not a huge amount of difference, really. As long as your DM's good at putting it across, they're both super engaging. They both have some really interesting points. And the one thing that written books have that a homebrew will never have is the written books have the history and everyone talks about them. So let's take like the Curse of Strahd book. So that's a really popular D&D book, like super popular, been around for donkey's years. Everybody knows of it, everybody's heard of it. Even if you haven't played of it, I would bet, if I was a betting man, I would bet that, you know, the majority of people have heard of Strahd, the character, from the D&D world. And that really helps drive people's interest to want to play a game. So it's, oh my god, yeah, I've played Strahd, yeah, I've been part of that. And people really resonate to that kind of thing. So it's because you're then part of the cult, or the sort of following. It's not a real cult, But yeah, so I think that's a massive plus for pre-written stories, is the fantasy, I guess, behind the book itself. Some of the books people have never heard of, you know, so, but other books, like, you know, even things like Vecna, stories about Vecna, and how Stranger Things, for example, has helped push the narrative on Vecna, and make people aware of it, might then mean that he appeals to people to play. Now, I did do my own personal campaign about Vecna, and about 3 weeks later they released a bloody book about him and gave a whole campaign. So my group thought that I'd just got the book. No, that was completely all made up by me, and it just so happened that I chose Vecna as the big bad. But I wrote my book first. Oh, a bit tight in there. Let's get under his fat folds. So, oh crikey, just out of shot. So what we're doing is just doing this little brace that goes over his shoulders, etc. Underneath this rope there is another one this side, so we'll do that as well. Doesn't matter if we colour in the rope, that's fine, because we're going to colour the rope after anyway. So that's absolutely fine. Go. Yeah, so that's kind of my experiences of playing them. You know, in a recap, I found that people are just more engaged in general. However, the lore never, not put down, but never forget the lore of a story, and that being the pre-written, can always have a good effect on a group. Because, you know, people that play D&D, oh, I want to kill Vecna, oh, I want to kill Strahd, or whatever it is. So they do have the pulling power. And it's also like a sense of belonging, because you can always say to another player, oh yeah, I've played that, I know what that's like, that's a really good book. You know, we did this and my party did that. Oh, how did you get past this point? Blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot then you can have in terms of conversations with people, and it's that commonality, that common ground that you can share, which I think is important when it comes to a D&D environment, right? Don't know if I'm going to be able to get this brush. I think this brush might be a little bit too big, but let's try. Oh, not bad. A little bit over, but we can tidy that up later. We've got the belt round his waist as well. Let's get that one done. Yeah, so there are my differences about, you know, when we talk about homebrew versus a pre-written campaign in the Forgotten Realms. Hopefully that's been of interest so far. Or been interesting, should I say. Whilst we paint our big fat ogre. Still got to come our hobby horror moment, which I'll do shortly. We might do it whilst we continue to paint. How's back? How you doing? Did you secure your miniatures? That's what I want to know. We're still painting our ogre here. He's not really a miniature. Well, he is a miniature, but he's a rather large miniature. God, I tell you what actually has gone up in price is 3D printed models. I don't know if the resin or something's gone up recently. 3D printed models have gone up. Like, you used to be able to get a 3D printed model for sort of between £3 and £5 off of Etsy. Now it's like £7 to £8. They've got quite expensive. And I don't like it. So I love having different miniatures for all the games I play. But crikey, you can't keep buying them all. Bloody nightmare expensive. But then again, Warhammer's put their prices up as well. So miniatures as a whole have gone up recently quite a bit. Damn these companies. See, even the geeks are getting hit by these price rises everywhere. And they know geeks spend money regardless, so they're quite happy to put up the prices on geeks. Nobody questions it. They're like, yeah, that's alright, don't worry. Those crazy people will still pay hundreds of pounds for a plastic model. Basically what they say. So, our hobby horror this week. Let's just scroll down to that. So, our hobby horror this week is called The New Model Curse. The New Model Curse. Now, what do I mean by the New Model Curse? Well, I, as we know, like to buy models, right? I like to build my armies, I like to build out my model collection, and I just love painting them, building them, etc. So, I, every now and then, go to buy models, and on a couple of occasions this has happened to me. And I don't know if it's happened to anyone else, so do drop in the chat if this has happened to you as well. So you find a love for a new, let's just use Warhammer as the example, right? You find a love for a new army. You think, oh my god, that's such a cool army. I'm going to collect those. And you start collecting them, right? And as you're collecting them, you get all the models you want. And you're like, freaking fantastic. I'm done. Buy the models. Start painting them. And then literally within a week or so, you then find out that they're changing the models. And they change the bloody models on you. Now, this happened to me recently. I mean, I bought my Marnius Calgar for my Ultramarine army some time ago, but didn't paint him. I've recently started playing Ultramarines because I built out the army and I've finally got round to painting models, so I can now play them, right? And Marnius Calgar comes with 2 other models in the pack. And they're a little squad that work together. Now, Games Workshop, in all their geniusness, have just said, oh yeah, we're going to make a new Marnius Calgar model, and he no longer comes with his squad. He can still go in a squad with those guys, but you have to buy them as a separate miniature. No freaking way. So now, instead of a squad of 3, it's a squad of 5, and there's also a special character that can also join that squad. They're really kicking the arse out of extra models. And this has happened to me a couple of times where I've bought a new model and then all of a sudden they've released something that then changes the look of it or how it is. And I just wonder whether that's ever happened to any of you. Have you ever bought a model for your army and then they've changed the rules, changed how it works, and you've had to buy a new one? Interested to know, because it's happened to me a couple of times and it makes me pig bloody sick. And it happened to me recently with my Ultramarines, and they've just released a new Marnius Calgar, and I'm like, great, now I have to buy, instead of one box where all 3 models came in it, I now have to buy 3 separate boxes, and I have not 3 models to paint and build like I did have. I've now got I think it's 6, so it's like doubled in size. And people argue and say, oh, but the model's better and it's so cool. Yeah, it is, but now I have to buy another one. And that Games Workshop are buggers for that. And if you don't stay on top of it, by Christ do they kick the arse out of it. So I'm really annoyed at them right now. They're not my favourite people. So if anyone from Games Workshop is watching right now, I'd like a full written apology. No, I wouldn't, but a free Calgar model would be great. Yeah, and I feel for anyone else as well, because model building's not a cheap, or army collecting, sorry, is not a cheap hobby, right? Bugger, I just went over the line. It's not a cheap hobby, and it's expensive, and people don't have endless wads of cash just to throw away. So it is really frustrating when companies do this, and they're blatantly doing it not just to update the model, they're doing it to make more money purposely. That's why they're splitting out the squad. That's why Calgar now comes as a single figure, and his Honour Guard come as a single squad, and then the captain of the Honour Guard comes in another squad, another box, sorry. So that's why they're all separate. And I just think that really takes the biscuit. And I hate when companies take advantage of their customers like that. I mean, it's not like Games Workshop don't make enough darn money. You know, they've had record profits year on year for the past, I don't know, something like 10 years. So it's not like they're not making a few bob. They are more than rich enough. And I think this year was actually the first year after the end of last year's financial year, that is, which ended in this year. They then paid their staff some bonuses, which is good. I like that, but still, putting the pressure on the consumer to buy more is kind of a bit piss-takey. So that made me angry, and I just wonder whether anyone else has experienced that. But that was my hobby horror moment. So what can you learn from me? Be careful what you buy, because it could change. The models could change, and you might have to buy a bloody another one like I did. Or I will, because it's not actually released yet. So yeah, have you ever experienced that? Drop it in the comments if you have. Have a whinge with me if you have. Come on. Let's have a good old whinge together. Ooh, let's go for some bronze. So what I'm going to do now is round on the side here. He's got his little barrel. It's got the metal bits around the edge. I'm just going to do those bronze. What? Oh, dang it. I've just dropped my paint pot. Luckily it wasn't open, but I have dropped my paint pot. Can I rescue it and get it back? Yeah, just about. There we go. Woo. May I ask you, will you play Inferno? Yeah, Hal, I'll play Inferno. I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a bash, don't you worry. It'll be good fun. See, me, I'm up for playing any games, right? I'm that sort of person. I'm that friend that will badger the crap out of you to play some new board game. And I do that of all my mates, so apologies to my mates. I'm always the one that's pushing to meet up and do this and do that and blah, blah, blah. Because I like doing all that sort of stuff. But the problem is, I can never get enough people to join me in my craziness. So... for real, yeah, I'll play Inferno. Yeah, why not? Why would I not want to? Got to give it a go, right? You've got to learn these things. Got to give it a go. I can give you some honest feedback. And that's what the gaming community is about, right? It's about finding friends and finding people that enjoy similar or the same things as you do, and you can share those things with these people, right? Whether that is playing games like Inferno, whether that is playing Warhammer together, whatever that is, it's sharing these experiences. That's what it's about, dude. I tell you what, because he's such a big character, he's a right pain in the bum to paint, this ogre. Easy in some respects, but to like move the model around so that it's in camera frame so you guys can see it, and then so that I can paint it, is not quite as easy as what it sounds. Yes, way, how? Yes, way. But that does mean you're going to have to tell me where I can download the ebook or whatnot. Because otherwise I will not know where to find it. Bugger. Oh, bugger. That is exactly what I'll say if I can't find the ebook. Go. Two ends done. Alright, that's good. Got lots of rope to do on this as well. I'm just trying to think of a good rope colour. I might actually use this Morghast bone. I know I don't use it for his teeth, but I am going to stain his teeth as well. But I might use the Morghast bone. Go. Oh, it's just out of here. There we go. Now you can see him a bit better. Can put some shade over his teeth as well. Do anyone have any ideas? Any ideas for what? Oh, how I can just share it? I'm used to it. I'm going to use an app to do it. Yeah, you can use an app to do it, dude. I don't see why you can't use an app. But for an app, it's quite that's quite a lot of setup. So you might want to, I don't know, you might want to look at something like a Google having the file on Google Drive, and being able to share it on Reddit and places like that, where others can just download the game for free, right, and play it and test it and tell you how it works and if there's good points, bad points, right? So that might be the way to do it. There you go, just dirtied his teeth up a little bit so they look a bit dirtier. Just realised I only got 5 minutes left of the show. Crikey. Crikey! Let's get this. I don't think we're going to do anything big now because it's only 5 minutes left. I think I'll only do little bits, so I'm going to try and do his eyes very quickly. Yep. Just get a slightly smaller brush because that one I'm using is pretty big. Let's just get this one. Get my geek glasses as well. Oh, you're not for making an app. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I don't think you need to make an app, dude. I think that's quite a lot of work to go into that. Whereas, actually, I think the easiest way is, like I said, is to save the file on like a Google Drive with access where people can access it and share it amongst a select group of individuals, or perhaps you share it to everybody, the test version, to get people playing it, right? So you share it in a place like Reddit, or in different forums, etc. And then you can just share it with people and allow them to play it for free. And not only will that spread the word of the game as more and more people play it, but it will allow people to come back to you and say, oh, this bit didn't work, oh, that bit did work, and I like this and I like that. So it will allow them to be able to feed back to you, which is good, which you really want. Go quickly done. Well, his eyes aren't finished, but you can see where I've done, put the pupils, put the eyes on. I've just done the lines, but I need to then go back with green once that is dry, circle those off so that it doesn't look like it's a line straight down, so it just looks like it's standard. What else? Any other bits I could quickly do now? Probably do... let's see, 4 minutes left. What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? I think all the other bits. Maybe I could do the hats. I'm going to go with I'm going to go with this blue here. I reckon I could do the hat in 4 minutes. What do we reckon? Can we get the hat done in 4 minutes before we finish the stream? Yeah, why not? Let's give it a go. Let's get that paint into there. Let's give it a bash. Here we go. 4 minutes to do this hat. Let's rock. Oh, this is my wet palette is really thinning out my paints today, which is fine, but it means that I'm going to have to do double layers, so it won't be finished today. Dang it. So sometimes in your wet palette when you're using it, if it's too wet, like mine is I think slightly too wet, because it's making all of my paints. See that you can see how you can see through the paint almost. So it makes them a bit too opaque. So that means that there's a little bit too much water in the wet palette, or the pad itself is too wet. So it thins the paint just a little bit too much. It's not a drama because you can just apply another layer. And like I said earlier, when you're applying that extra layer, it just means that you're not going to end up putting on paint and it being really thick onto your miniature. Actually, it will look quite decent, right? So don't panic if you ever paint and that's the kind of outcome you get from having your paint in your wet palette. Do not panic. That's absolutely fine, because you can always go over with extra layers. If you put too much paint in, if it's too thick, the paint, it will ruin your model and you'll have to take all the paint off, and that's a biatch. You don't want to have to do that. You want to be able to paint stage by stage, and if you make mistakes, you want the mistakes to be able to be covered up. So having thin paints is the way forward. How we're doing for time? Oh, we've got like 1 minute left. Can we get this last little bit done? We're almost there. Oh no. Oh, my camera just cut out. You kidding me? I was charging that beforehand. Let's swap over. There we go. Swap over to that view. Well, we are pretty much finished anyway, so let me just whack this across here because it's on my brush. There we go. Let's wash that off. very quickly. So here is our crazy ogre so far. That is what he's looking like. He's looking pretty good, right? There's no shading or anything like that done. It's Billy Basic painting so far, but he's looking pretty good. And you could, you know, even at this stage, stick him on a table and he'd look half decent, right? So there we go. Alright, so Howard's saying I'm going to use Discord and have an Inferno Discord server. That sounds like a good plan, dude. Have an Inferno Discord server. You can share documents on there, but just depends on how large the document is. So be careful if you're sharing documents. Just make sure the document size is small. So, that's the end of the show. Crikey, 2 hours goes very fast. Time flies when you're having fun with your friends. And as usual, thank you very, very much to every single one of you that joins in the chat. Thank you to everyone that logs in. Thank you to those that watch the video afterwards. So I am thankful for every single one of you, especially for putting up for my weird camera thing at the start. I don't know why my camera kept freezing and it wasn't working when I was changing cameras. So apologies there. Don't know what the problem was, but we got past it. So whew, thank the Lord. But anyway, thank you for watching. Make sure this weekend you do something geeky. Do something geeky, get out there and enjoy yourself, and do a little bit of fitness as well, even if it's just a walk around your local town, village or city. Go and do it, alright? Stay safe. I appreciate every single one of you. I will see you all very soon, alright? Take it easy, geek it up. Thank you. You have been watching Minis-N-Muscles, the place where the brawn meets the brush. I shall see you all next week. Ta-ra for now.
Minis-N-Muscles, we're heroes, right? The dying world still modern skies. Rushing air, where power we fight. Strength that breaks you, night in the night. Where the brawn meets the brush. The story's told in this love imagination mode. With every stroke, adventures unfold. Minis-N-Muscles, heart and soul. Guidance in hand and worlds to explore. Roll the future, hear the dice roar. Gaining realms of muscles drawn. Together in this place where we belong. Doting spells, casting dreams until the dawn. Leveling up and no one to follow. With painted heroes shining bright. Venturing on.